You already know the internet tracks everything you click, every scroll, every search, every ad you skip. But what if it started watching something you never agreed to share? Your eyes? In 205X, a new feature called Vision Sync was rolled out across all major browsers and devices. Marketed as an accessibility upgrade, it lets websites see where you're looking. The goal? Better user experience, faster navigation, inclusive design. At first, it seemed helpful. Vision Sync could read your gaze and predict what you wanted to do before you even clicked. Pop-ups became smarter. Navigation got faster. But then, people started getting flagged, shadow banned, suspended, all without saying a word or pressing a button. Why? Because they looked at the wrong thing for too long. That's where today's story begins, with a student named Reina, whose scholarship vanished overnight. No warning, no message, just a system-wide notice. Policy breach detected, visual behavior inconsistency. She hadn't spoken, she hadn't posted. All she did was stare at a photo. And now, the internet has labeled her a threat. Because in this new world, what your eyes do and what they say about your thoughts might be the only thing standing between you and erasure. Vision Sync was introduced as the next evolution in human-computer interaction, a revolutionary system that made devices feel more intuitive, natural, even human. Using high-frequency infrared sensors embedded in webcams, AR glasses, and even digital billboards, Vision Sync tracks everything your eyes do in real time. Where you look, how long you look, how fast your pupils contract, which emotion your gaze expresses, and most importantly, where your eyes hesitate. Every glance becomes data, every hesitation becomes a metric. The official explanation? To enhance accessibility and intent prediction for all users. Vision Sync was designed to help disabled users control devices with their eyes. It reduced clicks, it predicted needs, it made the internet feel alive. But under that surface, a second layer was forming, a behavioral trust engine. It didn't just help you navigate, it judged why you were looking, and whether that made you a threat. Sites began integrating micro-detection modules. If you hovered too long on flagged topics, protests, banned literature, uncensored footage, it triggered a confidence drop in your visual trust score. You wouldn't be told, you'd just notice things changing. Search results would shift. Your bank login would require extra steps. Job offers would dry up. Ads would get friendlier. The system never says no. It simply nudges you back to normal. Over time, people adapted. They scrolled faster, blinked more, avoided eye contact with political content. Even children learned to game their gaze, keeping it light, short, distracted, never intense. Because intensity could mean ideology, passion, emotion. And in this world, those things are dangerous. The worst part? Vision Sync isn't an app you install. It's embedded in every major OS, browser, and platform by default. You can't delete it. You can't turn it off. You don't even see it anymore. But it sees you. And what it sees becomes who you are. And who you are becomes what you're allowed to access.
Breaking news.
The warnings didn't come as headlines. They came as whispers. At first, it was subtle. A freelance journalist posted that her ad revenue suddenly vanished after she spent 14 seconds watching a leaked protest video, without even clicking it. She thought it was a glitch, until her articles stopped surfacing on search results. Then, a school teacher was suspended after Vision Sync flagged his browsing session. He had hovered over a banned history textbook for just a few seconds. His employer received an automated notification. Deviant gaze pattern detected. Subject flagged for content inconsistency. No hearing, no discussion, just suspension pending compliance review. Another case. A teenager spent too long looking at an altered image of the national leader, the kind used in memes. The next morning, he found his phone locked. A system message read, "Recalibration required. Inappropriate engagement pattern." It didn't matter what you clicked. It mattered what you looked at. How long? With what emotion? Whether your eyes lingered with anger, sadness, confusion. Even on dating apps, users reported shadow bans after gazing too long at profiles labeled non-compliant, people whose political beliefs triggered micro-index drops. The app adjusted matches automatically, filtering out low-trust visual pairings. It became common to say, "Don't look too long. Don't feel too much. Keep your gaze neutral." And yet no one felt neutral anymore. Everyone was watching themselves be watched, walking eye contact algorithms. One government contractor revealed she had been forced to attend gaze training sessions, where she was taught to dilute visual intensity when reading policy briefs. "It's not what you think," they told her. "It's how your eyes react to what you think." But the system didn't stop there. Soon, a new metric emerged: Visual Deviancy Index, VDI. Every citizen had one, not visible to them, but used to determine ad access, educational materials, and even border clearance. By the time most people realized what was happening, they had already adapted, blinking their way through life, scanning without seeing, performing passive obedience with their faces. And no one knew who would be flagged next, until it happened to Reina. Reina Min was a second-year university student, majoring in political theory and human rights law. She lived in a small city apartment, drank too much iced coffee, and had never broken a single rule in her life. She wasn't an activist. She wasn't a hacker. She just wanted to learn. One night during a routine study session, she opened a digital archive recommended by her professor. It featured a slideshow of political figures who had challenged authoritarian systems. Mixed in was a photo of Kian Lores, a dissident who'd vanished in 2047 after calling for open debate about surveillance laws. Reina paused on that slide. She didn't realize how long. 12 seconds. 12 seconds staring at his face, his expression, his eyes. She didn't click anything, didn't comment, didn't download. But the next morning, her scholarship access code failed. She received a system alert. Policy nonconformance review pending. Within hours, her student portal was locked. Her schedule vanished. Campus security asked her to leave the premises until the issue is resolved. No one explained what she did wrong. She called the admin office. They gave her a scripted line. "You've been visually associated with restricted historical material. Please submit a self-correction log and wait for reevaluation." Reina was stunned. She hadn't searched for propaganda. She hadn't joined a protest. She had just looked. She tried to access her personal records. Everything appeared normal, except her visual trust score, which had dropped 12 points overnight. Still in the acceptable range, but enough to trigger institutional review. She posted anonymously online. Others responded immediately. "Same thing happened to me. Don't stare at faces. Faces are dangerous. Blink more. Scroll faster." Reina began digging. She learned about Vision Sync's silent evolution, about how the system now calculates intention through eye emotion models. That gaze intensity on flagged figures, even in academic settings, was treated as ideological alignment. They didn't care if you were curious, or innocent, or studying. Your eyes made a choice, and that choice was logged. Reina had one question. "If my eyes made me guilty, can I teach them to lie?" Reina didn't wait for reevaluation. She packed her bag, wiped her devices, and headed for a quiet part of the city known for signal drops, places where Vision Sync sensors glitched just enough to create breathing room. There, in a basement cafe with analog menus and no facial scanners, she met Aaron, a former behavior analyst turned defector. He called them the gaze police. Not real officers, not visible, just embedded enforcement protocols run by silent agents, some human, some not, trained to spot visual nonconformity. Their job? Monitor anomalies in eye behavior, flag pattern deviance, and recommend countermeasures. Reina asked, "What kind of countermeasures?" Aaron smiled darkly. Corrections, recoding, re-education, if you're lucky. He showed her a screen, a chart tracking her gaze over the past 90 days. Every slide, every scroll, every stall. Color-coded by emotional prediction, interest, empathy, defiance. At the top, a red label. Prolonged ideological exposure. Raina felt sick. She hadn't looked with rebellion, she had looked with curiosity. But the system doesn't know the difference. It only knows patterns, durations, deviations. And that was enough. Aaron offered her a chip, small, worn, and illegal. A blink scrambler. It created artificial eye movement rhythms, just enough to confuse Vision Sync's prediction model. You'll have to train your real gaze too, he said. Keep it shallow. Spread it out. Never focus. They called it soft seeing, a way to be present without being caught, a way to see without reacting, to think without betraying thought. She wasn't the only one learning. Others were there too, designers, teachers, even a retired judge, all punished not for what they did, but for how they looked at the world. They were building something, a plan. Raina began helping develop counter-gaze models, emotional stares that looked neutral, expressions that felt empty. A new language of vision designed to survive surveillance. The gaze police couldn't arrest everyone, but they didn't have to. Fear was enough. One glance too long and your world collapsed. But Raina wasn't afraid anymore. She was learning to see differently, not less. And soon the world would see her back. The plan was simple, dangerous, final. Every 48 hours, Vision Sync pushed a micro-update to its predictive engine, syncing all public systems to the latest gaze models. Raina and the others had reverse-engineered a flaw. If they could inject a corrupted gaze pattern into the next update, they could poison the algorithm at its core. Not with malware, but with something worse, contradiction. They recorded a loop of Raina's eyes, perfectly symmetrical, evenly timed, emotionless. But buried within the pattern was a micro-glitch, a flash of expression too fast for the system to analyze, too long to ignore. It wouldn't crash the system. It would confuse it, force it to question its own classifications. And when a surveillance AI begins doubting its own truth signals, the entire structure cracks. They streamed it live. Across the world, devices updated automatically. Smart glasses flickered, phone screens pulsed, ads paused, and then silence. People waited for corrections, for flags, for bans. Nothing came. The next morning, Raina's visual trust score reset to 0, the baseline. No penalties, no rankings, just blank. She walked back onto campus, no guards, no alerts. And in a quiet corner of the library, she stared, unblinking, at Kian Loris's face again. This time, no one stopped her. Around the world, others began looking up, looking around, looking directly at what they had been taught to avoid. The system hadn't collapsed, but it had paused. And in that pause, humanity looked back at itself and started remembering how to see. If this story made your heart skip or your thoughts race, subscribe to 205X Stories. We create powerful short films and narrated thrillers that explore the dark edges of tech, control, and the future we're already building. Like this video, share it with someone who stares a little too long. Drop a comment below. What would your eyes betray first? Because in this world, what if fiction wasn't?